Bernie Bro here. I'm back. I want to talk about program called the Breakfast Club, which is a program that focuses on Black issues. And a few days ago, Joe Biden was interviewed by Charlamagne the God and talking about issues relating to African Americans and the 2020 election. No harm done, because we have a race problem in this country with regard to income inequality, which is actually race neutral is across the board, but it also profoundly affects the African American community. And we have a criminal justice problem that definitely negatively affects the African American community and yeah, broader society as well. And in the interview, Charlemagne, the God, I'm not particularly sure where he stand ideologically, but I knew that Joe Biden was not his first choice in the Democratic primaries. Although being for Kamala Harris is not exactly a cut above either. But the point is that he was kind of inquiring with Joe Biden what needs to be done with his community, and Joe Biden likes to do what he does best is to gaff and gaff and gaff and unintentionally make racially insensitive remarks in a way that's kind of demeaning to the dialogue. Um, I mean, to talk in kind of a quasi black lingo to try to be relatable, that's insulting to the black community. Just be yourself, be yourself, and stick to the issues, Joe. You're gonna have more people impressed with you that way than trying to pander. And his remark about, let's see, what did he say? If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, you ain't black. What the hell is that supposed to mean? I mean, now anybody who votes for Donald Trump, unless you're like part of the super wealthy 1%. I mean, really, anybody who votes for Donald Trump or vote for Republican in the year 2020, in my opinion, you're voting against your economic interests. And not that the Democrats are the end all. The Democrats have a lot of problems, but just on the issue of class alone, voting Republican, I don't care whether you're black, white, polka dot, or what have you. If you vote for a Republican in this day and age, and you're not part of the super wealthy class yourself, you're voting for your self interest against your self interest. Even if you're a toothless white redneck piece of shit racist asshole in Alabama or Mississippi, and you vote Republican, you're basically voting for the Republican Party to put a strap on without any lubricant and pulling your ass cheeks out and letting the Republicans just violently fuck your ass. That's what it means. And so that's I'm just trying to make a point here. But the thing about it is that it's very insulting. It's very insulting, and the media, who loves the establishment, just let him get away with it. I'm no defender of Donald Trump, but what happens if Donald Trump would have said that? You would have had CNN and MSNBC endlessly bitching about it to the end of time, which probably rightly so. But okay, what would have happened if Bernie Sanders would have said it? That's the thing right there. That's where the hypocrisy is at. Because if Bernie Sanders would have been condescending like that, you would have heard the media, the CNNs and the MSNBCs and the View and all that, insinuating to Bernie Sanders, who's done more on his little pinky for civil rights and racial equality than Joe Biden did in multiple Joe Bidens in his whole lives over and over. Bernie Sanders got himself arrested in 1963 in Chicago protesting against segregation. Joe Biden was hobnobbing as a young U.S. Senator. He was hobnobbing in the 1970s with segregationists, fighting against busing. Bernie Sanders was fighting for racial equality all his life. And Bernie Sanders has fought against the death penalty all his life, while Joe Biden is for the death penalty, which I'm not saying that the death penalty in itself is racist, but it has negatively racial outcomes. It disproportionately favors against minorities. And I'm not into identity politics. I like to take a race neutral nuance on most matters. But and I choose to call people a racist, and I don't take that term lightly. And the thing about it is that he condescended African Americans. Corporate Democrats do that. It's not just Joe Biden. Hillary Clinton did the same damn thing multiple times. In some speech, she was out there with a group of African Americans speaking in the lingo, which is again insulting. And in the interview, saying she carries hot sauce in her pocketbook. I mean, apparently, I mean, I did not know that was a racial stereotype about African Americans putting hot sauce in their foods or what have you. But apparently, it is. And she pandered and she condescended. I mean, can you picture Bernie Sanders going around saying, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, you ain't black? Or can you picture Bernie Sanders saying, "Oh, when I go to a restaurant, I want carry hot sauce in my jacket pocket to pour on my food." Can you picture him doing that? Of course not, because Bernie Sanders does not have to pander to people. Bernie Sanders has been a fighter. He's been a fighter all his life. Um, I mean, and even in recent history, before becoming a member of the U.S. House of Representatives, back in the 1980s, when racially things seem to have balanced out, and even that's debatable. Bernie Sanders was working very closely with Jesse Jackson and supported his campaigns and everything. So you can't you, you, you just can't sit there and act like Joe Biden is going to sit there and be for for the African American cause. Remember, he wrote the damn crime bill of 1994 that extended mandatory minimums and basically found a way to incarcerate a large portion of the African American young population into prisons during the 1990s. And and listen, same thing with Kamala Harris when she was the Attorney General in California. Did her same thing within the state, and thankfully, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard last year called her out on that. But again, you've got a situation where they're going to go and call Tulsi Gabbard a racist, who is a woman of color herself. Yeah, I mean, she's she's she looks white, but she's she's Polynesian and part Asian, and she is a woman of color. And she doesn't play the identity politics, but she will call bullshit when she sees it. And she called it out with regard to Kamala Harris. And some of the naysayers want to say, "Oh, she's a an Islamophobe because she is tied with the Prime Minister of India, Modi." Kamala Harris has deeper ties with Modi of India than Tulsi Gabbard did. Both coming from a Hindu background is not all that uncommon for well-known political figures in the United States who are of the Hindu faith to have ties with political leaders in India, whether they're good people or bad people in that office at the moment over there. So I just I'm just so tired of the selective outrage and the sweeping over and just brushing it under the rug with regard to Joe Biden. And remember, Joe Biden is a liar. He said he got arrested in South Africa in the 1980s, fighting against apartheid. I don't remember. I would remember that back then. I'm 51 years old, and I had an intense interest in politics back then. I was considered a novice, a nerd of sorts, because back then in high school, during I was sitting there concerned about the United States presence in Central America and what they were doing in Nicaragua and what they were doing in El Salvador. Whereas other kids, they were sitting there just doing what they were doing in high school, being pretty much apolitical. Um, but anyway, I just wanted to talk quickly about that, and I'm glad that there were people that condemned Biden's remarks, such as former state senator Nina Turner of Ohio, who was a Bernie Sanders surrogate in the Sanders campaign in 2016 and 2020. But the Democrats, you got a problem with Joe Biden. You got the problem with the cognitive decline. You got the problem with the, I'm not going to say racism to the extent that I'm equating him with Richard Spencer, but I'm going to say you got a candidate who is racially insensitive, but tries to make up for it with by being condescending. And that's just it's going to harm the chances for the Democrats in 2020, with regard to the Biden campaign. The Democrats are making a big mistake by choosing Joe Biden over Bernie Sanders, and that's what I got to say right now. And I just needed to get that out of my chest. If you like what you heard, feel free to give me a thumbs up and subscribe and tell your friends about this channel. I am trying my damnedest to make this channel relevant in the political discourse. I'm Bernie Bro. Y'all have a peaceful Memorial Day weekend. Over and out.